In today's video, we are going to be giving you guys our Week 2 NFL picks. Week 1 was a blast and a half, to say the least, for many NFL fans in general, because we got a lot of really cool plays that you guys will see us rank later this week, and also just a lot of really good games overall. What you're seeing on screen here are our picks and what we went with, last week, and kind of how we did record-wise. Everybody here being 10-6 besides Moody's, who sadly is not here for this recording. He went 9-7, and everyone else here went 10-6. We did all pretty well. I mean, winning records across the board. Not too bad. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that into week 2, and hopefully no one will take a substantial lead. But along with that, we also have Titletown, who was our top Discord picker, going 12-4. Pretty impressive there. And then our top YouTube comment, Silly Sato, if I'm pronouncing that right, which I think I am, who went 11-4. Also pretty good. Make sure to comment down below your picks for this week's games, and also on the Discord, if you haven't already, make sure to join that. Link in the description, by the way. Join that and make your picks as well. We have Discord picks out right now, and you can go join them. But yeah, make sure to comment down below what you think about this upcoming week of NFL football. Anyways, without further ado, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's just get right into the beginning of this video. Alright, so the first game of the week, we have Thursday Night Football, which is the Commanders versus the Packers.
So both of these teams looked pretty good last week. The Giants weren't exactly the best team ever, so we don't fully know what the Commanders are going to be until I guess they play this Packers team that played against the Lions. Won that game pretty. Both of these teams kind of dominated last week. Two pretty good teams, a pretty good Thursday night game. Kind of a surprise based on how Thursday night football tends to be. Let's start out with my pick here. Yeah, and I'll just be honest. I'm just going to be a hater here and pick the Commanders because I need some satisfaction after last week. Ended up not having fun watching that Lions Packers game. I'm just going to be honest there.
I think that these are two of the best offenses in the entire NFL, so it's a very difficult game to pick and could really go either way. But I'm going to go with the Packers just because I trust their defense a little bit more than the Commanders.
Before we do Ripcord's picks, I think I might as well get these two out of the way. Moody's in the Discord, once again, if you want to join, picked the Commanders. Unfortunately, can't hear their opinion on why. That's what we got. And then Title is picking the Packers, our Discord member that did the best last week.
I see both of your points, both very fair points. Aqua being a little bit more of a hater, Pine being a little bit more reasonable. And I think I do really like Jaden Daniels, and I think he's going to be great this game, and I think it's probably going to be one of the closest Thursday night games all year. But I'm sadly going to have to go with the Packers. And I just think, I don't know. I don't know if Jordan Love's going to play the best game, but I know that if Josh Jacobs plays well and Micah Parsons dominates, I think they'll be fine. And yeah, I just trust the Packers more overall. A better team. Slightly, but I think it's very close between these two, and I think we're going to get a really good game nonetheless. All right, next up we have the Giants versus the Cowboys. Who do we think is going to win in this matchup?
So going into the season, I would have probably said the Giants because of the whole Cowboys trading away their best player. But the Giants did not play well last week. And I'll be honest, most of that was down to Russell Wilson. I mean, that defense was getting sacks left and right, and they still couldn't do anything because they couldn't even score a touchdown. The Cowboys played the Eagles really tough last week, and the Giants kind of get owned by the Cowboys historically, so I feel like I have to pick the Cowboys as much as I don't want the Cowboys to win. I just feel like that's more likely to happen than not, especially with the Cowboys being at home.
Basically the inverse of what I said last time. I think these are two, at least especially for the Giants, very good defenses. I just trust the Cowboys offense a little bit more, at least because I also don't trust Russell Wilson or almost any of the offensive players they have in, well, not New York, it's New Jersey, but in the Giants locker room. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm probably also gonna have to go Cowboys on this one, even though I think if they can patch up that quarterback spot with Jackson Dart or Winston, whoever seems to play, because Wilson is not looking great, so if he can either get better or they can patch it up with one of the other two and make it somewhat better, I think the Giants definitely have a chance, especially with that defense. But yeah, just give me the Cowboys. Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are probably both going to have really good games.
I'll get this out of the way. No shockers here. We have a complete sweep for the Cowboys.
All right, so next up we have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. One team won last week and one team lost, but they're both still very questionable teams in what their full potential is for the season. So who do we have going into this one, guys?
So last week, the Steelers looked really weird because their offense looked like it was like an elite machine, and their defense looked obviously kind of bad against the Jets. I don't know. It feels just better than I realized. Probably not. So I don't know why the defense was so bad for the Steelers, which is really weird. Then they have the Seahawks, who kind of just shot themselves in the foot nonstop last week, from what I saw from that game. I don't know, but I guess I have to go with the Steelers. If they actually just have a high-powered offense, then the Steelers team might be actually good this year. And
Give me the Steelers just because I like their defense better slightly, even though Seattle's got a solid unit there. I also like Aaron Rodgers after he threw 4 touchdowns. He really only needs to throw 1 or 2 a game, I feel like, for the Steelers to be competitive. Like, he really doesn't need to do that much. Throwing 4 touchdowns was just kind of a result of shootout that was happening between them and the Jets.
I am also going to go with the Steelers for one reason alone, and that is the Seattle offensive line was proven last week as being very bad and not very good at keeping Sam Darnold not getting pressured every single play. You can't really do much, so I don't think the Seattle's offense is going to be very good. There were other receivers and running backs weren't great last week either, so I'm just going to go with Pittsburgh.
as in for our Discord member title, also picked the Steelers. And then Moody's also picked the Steelers. So you know what? No, okay, the Seahawks team isn't the best, but I feel like the chance of them winning is like more than people giving them credit for. So I'm gonna switch to the Seahawks.
We'll see if Aqua's last second switch pays off. Anyways, next up we have the LA Rams versus the Tennessee Titans in a somewhat one-sided match, as some would say, but also some would say maybe Cam Ward has it in him to take down one of the better teams in the NFL. What do we think about this one?
What his weapons did last week? No, he does not. This is probably also going to be another sweep, so I'm just going to pick the Rams and move on because none of the Titans' weapons could do anything last week. It's not even that Cam Ward played bad. It's just none of them did anything.
Yeah, I'm also going to have to go with the Rams here. Pretty cut and dry.
Like the Titans defense last week, I will say that. It was either that or Bo Nix just had it was his worst performance since like the start of last season. Either way, I still gotta pick the Rams. At least as far as I'm aware, Stafford is healthy, and that's gonna probably make them be able to do enough against that defense, especially when that offense can't do anything because Calvin Ridley is not really a wide receiver one. And just gonna make this quick. Yes, this is a sweep, as Pine kind of insinuated. It's kind of hard to trust a rookie quarterback, even if they are the first overall pick this early into the season.
Next up, we have another somewhat one-sided match, at least, one-sided when it comes to who's going to probably win. I'm going to get it out of the way. I think the Bills are going to win this one. I don't really see a world where the Jets win. I mean, maybe they have a quick touchdown or 2 to begin the game, but going into the fourth quarter, there's just really no chance they stay in it that long.
If last week is recreatable for the Jets, then maybe this team actually can win this game, but it's really hard for me to believe into that. So give me the team that's actually in New York.
I am really tempted to pick the Jets here just because their defense looked okay last week. Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall both looked very good last week when they had a quarterback that wasn't Aaron Rodgers. I think that they genuinely do have a chance to win this game, but at this point, I'm just not going to pick against Josh Allen until they lose or until they play the Eagles. I'm just going to pick the Bills.
Shocker, once again, we got another sweep. I swear there's actual interesting games on this week, guys. You got to believe us.
Next up, we have the Patriots versus the Dolphins, a somewhat lackluster game at first glance, and considering what the Patriots did last week, it probably will be a similar case, but in my opinion, I'm going to start off the picks here, and I think the Patriots are going to win, even though the Dolphins should not put up such a bad performance as they did week 1. Their offense should do something decent, but we'll have to wait and see, how Tua and Mike McDaniels and all of them respond, but give me the Patriots. I think their defense is probably going to just play really well against this Dolphins offense, whatever it looks like, nonetheless.
I have to pick the Dolphins here, and not because I think the Dolphins are a good team. Let's make that straight. I do not think they're a good team. I think the Patriots are a better team. But the Miami, really early on home field advantage tends to make them perform well. And I feel like it's hard for them to play as bad as they did last week. That last week was so bad. They looked like the worst team in football last week. I don't think they can play that bad 2 times in a row with the talent they still have that's currently healthy at the minute. Well, I don't know if that will stay that way, but I just think Dolphins could probably win this game, especially against a team they tend to play really well against.
Well, unlike Aqua, until the Saints start staining, I genuinely think the Miami Dolphins are the worst team in football, and that's why I'm picking the Patriots, because I don't think the Patriots are going to win more than 4 games the entire season. But luckily, they have a quarterback who knows what a football is and how to throw it. I don't think that Tua could do his ABCs forward, not even backwards at this point. So I'm just going to pick the Patriots and move on.
All right, we actually have a split with our remaining two. We have Moody on the Patriots, which I would say probably is the team favorite in this game. And we actually have Tidal join me on the Dolphins for this game. We'll have to wait and see how this one pans out.
Anyways, next up we have the Bengals versus the Jaguars. The Bengals coming off of a somewhat lackluster performance where they, barely squeaked out a win there against the Browns. And the Jaguars coming off of a pretty substantial win against the Panthers.
So, this is our second cat fight in a row, which is kind of funny. We're going to get another one in week 4, by the way. I think the Jaguars are probably a fringe playoff team in terms of how they performed so far. I think the Bengals are probably slightly better than that based on the fact their defense actually really competent last week, but I still don't like Joe Burrow in the first 2 weeks. And frankly, if the Browns had a kicker last week, they would have lost to the Browns. It was literally should have been a leather loss for the Bengals early in the season. I actually like how the Jags performed last week, so give me the Jags. I'm feeling the Jags this week. I actually think they can actually cook on offense, as they showed last week, and the Bengals look anemic last week. I think it's going to stay that way until week 3.
I fully agree with all of Aqua's points. I think that the Jags are actually as much as I want to pick against the Jags of what they did to the Panthers last week, I do think that they are a genuinely good young team. I think that their future is bright, and I think that they have not a good defense, but a capable defense, unlike what Cincinnati is working with. Like I suspected last week, the vibes in Cincinnati are just god-awful. They were 1 field goal away from losing to the Joe Flacco Cleveland Browns, and it's just not looking good in Cleveland. Things looking up in Jacksonville. I'll pick the Jags.
Me personally, I'd probably go with the Jaguars here, even though I want to go with Joe Burrow, but yeah, that Joe Burrow early season kind of playing so great vibe is starting to, spark up there with that barely squeezed out win against the Browns. So yeah, give me the Jags. Give me Travis Hunter, the chance to play as the best wide receiver in this game, better than Jamar Chase. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't throw a stupid pick or two, they should be able to win this game, I think.
I am actually shocked we're getting a sweep in picks here. I really thought someone would pick the Bengals here because they are probably still the better team. But yeah, week 1 Burrow is sorry, week 2 actually now is something.
Anyways, next up we have the Niners versus the Saints. Kind of a lackluster game as the Saints are, definitely down there on the podium of teams. So right off the bat, give me the 49ers. They looked great last week. Some parts of the game and other parts of the game not so great. The injuries don't help. The fact that Purdy's now supposedly out and then Kittle's on IR, not looking awesome from that standpoint. But besides that, they look like a competitive team that could definitely, put up some points against good teams and then also maybe choke away some games against a team that, might be lesser than them like Seattle. But I think they should be able to win this game even if Purdy, can't play.
So the Saints did look a lot better than the Cardinals than I thought they would. They actually had some semblance of an offense, and their defense was doing stuff. I don't really know where that contribute that if the Cardinals being worse than I thought or if the Saints being better than I thought, but I still can't pick the Saints in any capacity right now until proven otherwise. So give me the Niners by default. All right, we actually have a surprise pick from our Discord guest with Tidal taking the Saints, the very first Saints pick of this entire series, and then Moody's went to the Niners. Shocker there.
I was going to be the person to break the sweep of everyone picking the Niners. I was heavily considering picking the Niners, and I thought about it a bit, and I realized Brock Purdy I don't think is playing this week. I think it's Mac Jones. And
it's not confirmed. It could be. I know Kittle is confirmed out, though. That is the one that's confirmed out.
Kittle is confirmed out. Purdy is rumored out. And the 49ers still have tons upon tons of injuries, and they still definitely struggled against the Seahawks this week, even if they won. You know what? I'm going to be crazy. I'm going to regret this pick, but I am picking the Saints to get their one and only win this season against the, hopefully, Mac Jones 49ers.
Well, you heard it here first.
This is not going to age well, is it?
All right, next up we have a rival matchup between two division rivals, the Browns and the Ravens. Ravens coming off of a very interesting loss against the Bills, to say the least, and the Browns coming off of an almost upset win against the Bengals. I'll go first to make it quick in this divisional matchup, and give me the Ravens, but give me the Browns to also make the Ravens a little scared throughout the game, scoring some points here and there that kind of make the Ravens consider whether or not they should actually be trying, because I don't think they should try that hard against the Browns, even though the Browns might be decent against them. I think the Browns are still going to give them a little bit of a run for their money at some points in this game.
I'm going to do the crazy thing. Give me the Browns. This is the perfect matchup. The Ravens would play down to their competition, losing and they shouldn't win. We're literally repeating last year with the Ravens losing a really close game against a really good team, potentially proceeding to absolutely screw themselves in week 2 and play down to the team. Last year was the Raiders, the Browns. They played the Ravens close for some reason, and that's going to do it. We're going to see Joe Flacco get his first win since coming back to the Browns.
Every year, there's always a Cleveland Browns game against a really good team where you think there's no way in hell the Cleveland Browns are winning this game, and somehow they do. And this definitely could be that game, but I'm not going to pick it just because I respect this Ravens team too much, and I think they're going to learn from their choke job last week, and I think that they're going to be motivated, and I think that they're not going to play down to competition as much as people think.
It is official. I am the lone dog on the Browns, which I just realized actually is a pun. Anyways.
Next up, we have the Bears versus the Lions, another divisional rivals matchup. Interesting one, as it's Ben Johnson's first time back in Detroit since getting his new job. And you know what? Give me the Lions to redeem themselves. I think Caleb Williams might be able to ball out this game or play average like he did last game. But I think Caleb Williams has a chance to do really well. But I think the Lions offense is going to get itself together. And I think they're going to actually understand what they have to do. And yeah, they're going to get their first win in the season against their division rival, the Bears.
I'm not going to sugarcoat. The Lions' O-line, especially in the interior, played absolutely dreadfully. I don't think I've seen worse run blocking in a long time out of Detroit. It was pathetic, frankly. But I have to trust this coaching staff enough to make adjustments. So there's no way they could ignore all those mistakes because they was just constantly. There's literally a picture I'm going to probably show up on screen when I'm editing this of the Lions run blocking in their own end zone. And they're literally just leaving a free rusher just in to just tackle Montgomery on the goal line. It was so bad. And I have to believe there's no way the Lions put out that performance a second week in a row because this team is far too talented to be losing in such dominant fashion like that. I don't know what I saw last week, and hopefully I don't have to see it again. And if not, this is going to be a very long season. And the first time I've seen the Lions lose back-to-back since 2022.
So I guess I'm going to be the crazy one this week after picking Saints, because I'm also going to pick Chicago Bears because sneakily had a crazy good game last week. His offensive line just absolutely failed him. Not because they failed to block as much. They weren't great, but they weren't awful. Why they failed him is because of the amount of penalties they had. Cancel out great runs from Caleb Williams that got them first downs over and over and over again, where they had to go 3 and out over and over again in the second half. Stop making those dumb penalties and can be the offense that I believe they can be. And hopefully DeAndre Swift doesn't get too many touches because DeAndre Swift.
I am shocked to see that this is going to be a 1-all split here with our guest and Moody's picking the Lions. I thought for sure more people pick the Bears because I'll be honest, if I didn't have faith in this coaching staff, I'd probably pick the Bears too, to be honest, based on what I saw last week.
Next up, we have the Broncos versus the Colts, an AFC matchup between two teams that have potential, and one of them played very well. The other one played a little lackluster.
I'm just going to say that I think that the Broncos defense is the best in the league. I know for a fact that as someone who has them in fantasy, they had 30 fantasy points last week. So I really believe that they are an incredibly good unit, the best in the league. Opposing that, the Colts' big thing is their offense led by Daniel Jones, which I don't think is the best in the league. I think that they didn't play a great opponent last week, and sure, they scored 30 points, but I see the Colts this year as just the next version of the Saints last year. Saints had 2 really good games to start the season last year and then failed miserably after that. And I think that, the Linsanity run from the Saints, I think it's just last week of the Linsanity Colts run. I think it ends whenever this game happens. Welcome back to the NFL, Daniel Jones. Have fun facing this monster defense.
First of all, the Colts aren't the Saints of last year. The Colts have always been the Colts. Team with a lot of good positions, but having a no quarterback and somehow scraping up 9 wins or like 8 wins. That's just what they do. And honestly, I feel crazy for picking this, but I think I like the Colts at home. Only, I don't know, was the Titans defense that was good, or is it Bo Nix having some problems? I'm not really sure. But either way, Bo Nix didn't play great last week. And the Colts need to get dumb wins somewhere, so give me the Colts here, because it seems like a perfect Colts game. They're going to want to win for no reason other than because somehow they do.
Sound logic.
I'm gonna have to not go for the upset here, even though I kind of see what Pine's saying about them being the Saints of last year. I could definitely see that, but the Broncos have a real chance of going like 4-1 or like even 5-0 maybe to start off the season. Schedule ain't that bad, and considering what their defense is and what their offense could be, real shot of actually like, starting off with the best record in the NFL. And so, yeah, give me the Broncos for this one. I think they're going to start off 2-0, and I think Bo Nix is going to definitely play a lot better than he showcased in that Week 1 matchup.
You're going to call this insanity, but both Moody's and Title picked the Colts somehow. I thought I'm the only one that's going to how dumb Colts seasons tend to work. But
I don't think the Title is going to be the winner of the Discord this week. I'll say that.
All right, anyways, next up we have an NFC matchup between the Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. Two lackluster teams that have potential to maybe, upset a team here or there. But who will be the team that comes out on top here? Do we have the Panthers who are 0-1? Do we have the Cardinals who are 1-0?
I got to give it to the home team here because they are hosting, even if the Cardinals' home field advantage isn't like anything like amazing or anything. At least saw a complete game out of the Cardinals last week. I haven't seen that out of the Panthers yet. I want to believe in this Panthers team, but until I get shown at least something, I don't want to think I'm going to be picking them for a minute unless they're playing more favorable competition.
It hurts. Everything hurts. This is going to be one of my rants. We played genuinely awful last week. Like, I don't think we've played that bad of a game since, like, week 2 or 3 last year, which it was also one of the worst games that people have played ever. Our team is so bad. Our defense is generationally awful again. I miss Adam Thielen so much because our receivers are anything but reliable. Bryce Young, like, if you looked at Bryce Young and wondered how is he in the NFL, that's how he played last week. He just was not good. I don't pick the Panthers just because I genuinely don't believe in the Cardinals at all either, and they're one of 2 opponents that I would consider picking the Panthers over at this point. I think that we're going to get a win by a field goal maybe. The final score is going to be like 2017 or something sad like that. We're going to go into next week, we're going to lose by 30 points, we're going to bench Bryce Young again.
I do like the idea of Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison and what they did in Week 1, and I like the idea that they're probably going to continue that throughout this season. So them as a duo is scary, but then again, I think Bryce Young shouldn't be able to play that bad 2 weeks in a row. I think Chuba Hubbard could play a lot better. I know he played decent, so give me the Panthers, actually, and give me, like, Chuba. Chuba's probably going to go for, like, 120 yards. I think they're just going to run it to him most of the time. I think he's going to feed.
Discord, we have the Cardinals fan going for the Cardinals, and we have the Panthers fan going with the Panthers. Shocker there.
All right, next up we have probably the match of the week. Because it is a Super Bowl rematch. Those usually happen pretty early on in the season, if at all. And here we are in Week 2 with a Super Bowl rematch of this past year's Super Bowl of the Eagles and the Chiefs. The Eagles, of course, winning that Super Bowl, but the Chiefs looking to extract revenge. And I'll give my pick right off the bat here. Don't like either team that much. Like, I don't favor either team that much, considering they kind of, the Eagles won really close, which they probably shouldn't have, and the Chiefs, lost really close, which they probably shouldn't have. So I'm not confident really in a lot of people because I think the Eagles defense got exposed a little bit. I think they're still going to be like one of the best units in the league. They got exposed a little bit. They need to kind of lock that down. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they just kind of need to be more smart on offense. They didn't seem to have many. Like, they didn't seem as sharp as they usually always are on offense. And defense, they kind of just got carved up by Herbert there. I'm not going to lie. I don't think that's going to happen, though, with Jalen Hurts. I think they have a chance of winning. And you know what? Give me the Chiefs for revenge. Give me them in, like, an overtime thriller, like 27-24, like, win by a field goal. I don't know, something like that.
I want to pick the Chiefs here just because it does feel right for a revenge win here. It also would make sense for the Chiefs to bounce back to some degree. And the Eagles didn't look good last week, which means they feel like they probably could lose here. But the issue is that Worthy's out and Rashidi Rice is suspended. And the way you beat the Eagles, it seems like, based on how last game went for the Eagles, is that they don't have 3 good corners. They only have the 2 rookies from last year, Dejean in the slot, specifically, and Kenyon Mitchell out wide. They don't have that Rodgers, that Slay, that spot, clearly showing they have not been able to replace it very well. And if the Chiefs had better receivers, I would be picking them here. But unfortunately, I got to go with the Eagles as much as I really don't want to.
Yeah, I'm also gonna pick the Eagles here. Again, the Chiefs have their 2 best receivers out right now. I think Patrick Mahomes played amazing last week, so I think that he definitely has a chance to single-handedly win this game. But I believe in Dallas's offense a little bit more. I think they have enough weapons to expose the Chiefs defense. And I think that Jalen Hurts can do a similar thing to what he did in the Super Bowl last year if he locks in and plays well. So I'll pick the Eagles.
Moody's picked the Eagles, and so did Title. So looks like we got a lone wolf with Ripcord on the Chiefs.
All right, next up we have the Atlanta Falcons versus the Minnesota Vikings in an interesting matchup of 2 basically rookie quarterbacks, JJ being injured last year, so he is technically a rookie, and then Penix not playing 3 games last year, so very limited time on him, and JJ just finished his first, both getting, the Falcons actually lost, but Penix did play very well for a young quarterback, and JJ actually got his win in a comeback victory against the Bears, so 2 young quarterbacks. Very interesting to see this matchup. First, real quick, give me the Vikings. I do like J.J. McCarthy, and what I saw from him after he struggled, I thought he struggled a large amount in the first half, but I think he came back in the second half and played very, very well considering the circumstances, and so I think that can translate into a lot of different places this season, and one of them can be getting back-to-back wins against the Falcons in week 2.
So my problem with the Vikings is their defense didn't really look like the Vikings defense from last year, and it's supposed to be even better than last year's Vikings defense. And the third thing is their cornerback room for the Vikings just isn't good, and either they're really their safeties. I feel like the Falcons are capable of exploiting that. Now, it could be the defense didn't look great last week because Ben Johnson is pretty good against Flores' defenses. I mean, he's did an amazing job destroying Flores 2 times in a row last year. Obviously didn't get the win this time, but that's probably because, you're dealing with a way less talented offense than you had in Detroit. The tools are there for the Falcons to win this match, so give me the Falcons this week. I think Penix has slightly more experience, is going to really do it. Also, rip the Kirk Cousins Bowl, by the way.
In the most exciting game of this entire week, the Kirk Cousins Bowl, because everyone loves Kirk Cousins. I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins' former team to beat Kirk Cousins' current team, because Vikings are good vibes.
Alright, as in for our Discord picks, we have Title on the Vikings, and we have Moody on the Vikings, meaning I'll be the only one picking the Falcons this week, which probably means this is in fact a bad pick, but I stick with my decision.
All right, and then we have our first Monday night matchup of this week 2 NFL season. We got the Bucks versus the Texans in a very, very interesting matchup, considering both of these teams are considered like the opposites of each other. Like one of them's the AFC version of the NFC version, it seems, as they both have very similar feelings to them in the sense of how good they are, offensively and defensively. But they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Wide receivers being one of Tampa Bay's, strengths, and wide receivers being one of Texans' weaknesses, considering Nico's their only wide receiver. Give me the Buccaneers. I like Baker. I like Baker on prime time. I think Baker's going to be a dog. He's going to just play better than Stroud. I'm curious to see how Stroud plays, considering he kind of just got beat up. The Rams played better than them, but the offense kind of just got beat up, and I'm wondering to see if he can play kind of better than he should on an offensive line in a receiving core that is not helping him a lot. But give me Baker and the Bucks. I just think they're a better team, and they're just going to have a more explosive offense to put more points on the board.
So I disagree with some things. I think the Buccaneers have an incredible offense, and the Texans have an incredible defense, and they both have struggles in each of their respective. Since wide receivers and O-line, the Bucs have struck kind of with their DBs and also their pass rush. But with that being stated, you said you love Baker in primetime. I hate to tell you this, Baker's primetime stat is 30% win rate. So for that reason, I'll go with the Texans just based on based on that. They'll probably end up putting up way too many points and somehow still lose because the defense sold for Baker. Is my prediction.
No. You gotta trust. You gotta trust. Baker is gonna turn that
I
primetime
don't know.
stat around.
Both those Falcons games were prime time last year.
All right. We don't talk about those ones. All right. Kirk Cousins somehow. So, hey, actually, that was a fluke because Kirk turned it on. But I think Baker's going to turn it on this year. Don't worry, guys. Trust.
To start off my second rant of the night, and this will probably be my last one, I would like to read you the current running back room of the Houston Texans. The ghost of Nick Chubb, Jaquavis Marks, Dameon Pierce, British Brooks, and Dare Ogunbawe. That's a list of names. And then also everything I said last week, I'd stand by. CJ Stroud is consistently a problem. His play is still, people are going to make the excuse that the offensive line is awful, because it is, but he just hasn't been able to do anything in that offense last week. They got absolutely destroyed by the Rams, who didn't even have that good of an offensive night themselves. They just had a good enough defense to easily win. The Texans had plenty of chances to win that game, and they chose not to. A very good chance to be a very high team in the NFC. They have the best receiver room in the NFL. They have a very solid overall offense. They have a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. The Texans do not. And while their defense is not as good as the Texans defense, their offense is significantly better than the Texans offense. So I'm just going to go with the Bucks.
Anyways, Moody's continuing the Ohio State glaze by picking Stroud, and Title is choosing the Buccaneers here.
And yeah, this is our last game of week 2. We have another Monday, so this is a Monday night doubleheader. This game is at 10 o'clock. This game exists, a divisional rival matchup between the Chargers and the Raiders. The Raiders coming off a win, the Chargers also coming off a surprising win. Both teams are 1-0, and which team do we think is going to start out 2-0?
First of all, it's a crime that they're putting 2 Monday night games at the same time. It's so silly that they do that. My gut's initially telling me to pick the Raiders here, but I kind of can't for a few reasons. Number one, the Chargers, if their receiver room's going to play like they did last week, the weakness of the Raiders is they don't have good DBs, so that just cooks the Raiders there. And frankly, yeah, Justin Herbert looked really good last week, and Gino didn't look bad last week. But if we're getting that Justin Herbert every single week, then even with the which we thought would be O-line problems, the O-line looked pretty good actually last week, which is ridiculous. If the Chargers go 3-0, by the way, because they play all their divisional opponents back to back, because they play the Broncos next week. If they go 3-0, I'll pick them to win the division if they can go 3-0 in this stretch. Honestly, yeah, give me the Chargers.
I would like to offer my severe apologies to the Raiders last week for picking the Patriots over them. They played really well, and I think they're a very solid team that has not a likely chance, but a chance to make the playoffs. Same with, I don't need to apologize to the Chargers team because I picked them over the Chiefs, but they looked amazing last week, especially their wide receiver room having 3 very solid wide receivers. I think that Herbert also looked amazing last game, and he will continue to look really good in this very solid Chargers offense. And their defense also looked great last week, completely shutting down the Chiefs for most of the game until Mahomes started doing Mahomes magic things. I'm gonna pick the Raiders in a lot of games this season. I think they're gonna be a potential playoff team, but this Chargers team is looking amazing right now, and I'm gonna keep picking them until I have a reason to otherwise.
I would like to point out this is the first time Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh have matched up in a while. Probably since the last 49ers Seahawks game back in the 2010s when Jim was still in the NFL, but now he's back and Pete Carroll's back, and they're going to be playing each other at least twice a year for a while now. Which coach wins coaching battle here? I'm probably going to pick the Chargers. If the Chargers, Herbert can carve up the Chiefs, secondary like he did last week with the wide receivers he has, then he could probably definitely do that to the Raiders. So give me the Chargers here by a pretty substantial margin, but I think the Raiders could definitely put up a fight considering they did come out pretty strong with that offense, which I somewhat expected, but not to the fullest extent against that Patriots defense. But I think I do like Pete Carroll as as the Raiders head coach. I think that's a good fit, and I think the Raiders have a chance of doing something special this year, but right now, give me the Chargers over them.
All right, and as for our last 2 picks, we have our Discord winner going with the Chargers, and also Moody going with the Chargers. This feels a little disrespectful to the Raiders, but this Chargers team did look really good last week, so I kind of get the logic here.
I'm not going to change my pick, but I feel like y'all are really underestimating this Raiders team.
I want to. My gut's telling me to do it. It's just like the
Yeah.
problem is their weakness is the secondary, and the Chargers clearly showed they can carve.
Yeah. Like, I really want to pick the Raiders, but this Chargers team is just too good.
Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. This has been Draconic Sports and Pine as the guests. Week 2 NFL picks. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to join our Discord, link in the description. And yeah, as always, have a great rest of your guys' week. We will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Call your own
Bye.
picks and bye.
Goodbye.